Okay, so get this right. Everyone listening is using AI every day, like all the time. And it's easy to see how AI is changing the world. But did you ever stop to think about what it takes to power all those incredible AI algorithms?
And it's more than just electricity. We're talking about a hidden cost,
Yeah.
something most people don't even consider.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right, it's not just energy, it's water. And not just like a little bit of water, we're talking massive amounts of water.
Kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Really is. So today we're diving deep into AI's water footprint, why it uses so much water, what that means for the planet, and most importantly, what we can do about it.
And what's really interesting is that this isn't just some abstract problem. It's happening right now in the real world. Like take Silicon Valley and Austin, for example.
Right. Huge AI hubs.
Exactly. And they're also dealing with serious water scarcity issues.
So it's kind of ironic, right? The technology that's supposed to solve the world's problems is actually contributing to some of them.
Yeah, it's a complex situation for sure.
So to start off, can you explain where all this water is actually being used? I mean, I know data centers, those giant warehouses full of servers, are essential for AI.
Right.
And I always assumed that keeping those servers from overheating was like the biggest water guzzler.
Well, it's definitely a big factor, but it's not the whole story.
Oh, really? What else is going on in there?
Well, you have to think about all the other systems that keep those data centers running 24/7. You've got things like power distribution, humidity control, fire suppression systems,
Right.
and all of those things need water to function properly.
Wow, I never even thought about all that.
It's easy to forget, right? It's not just about the servers themselves, it's the whole ecosystem that supports them.
So how much water are we actually talking about here? Can you give us some concrete numbers to illustrate the scale of the problem?
Yeah, absolutely. So get this. Training a single, small AI model, just one, can use 170,000 gallons of water.
Whoa,
That's enough for an average household for, like, over 2 years.
that's insane. Okay, so we've got these data centers, many of them in drought-prone areas,
Right.
and they're using these huge amounts of water for all sorts of operations.
Wow.
But what happens to all that water? Where does it go after it's used?
That's the big question. And it's where things get ethically complicated. Some of it evaporates, from the cooling towers,
Sure.
but a lot of it becomes wastewater. And that wastewater often gets discharged back into the environment, which can have a real impact on local ecosystems.
And isn't it true that some of this water is being diverted from other uses, like agriculture, or from communities that are already facing water stress?
Absolutely. It's definitely happening.
So, I mean, it's almost like we're prioritizing digital convenience over basic human needs in some cases.
It's a trade-off that we need to examine very carefully,
Yeah.
especially because, some AI models are a lot more water intensive to train than others.
Oh, interesting.
So it's not just about reducing AI use in general. It's about being more strategic, being smarter about how we're actually using AI.
That makes total sense. Okay, so we've established that there's a problem.
Yeah.
And it's a big one. But what can we actually do about it? I mean, where do you even begin to tackle something this complex?
Well, the good news is there are things we can do both as individuals and, at the industry level.
Okay, that's good to hear. So, what can everyday people do? I mean, I'm not a programmer or a data scientist.
Well, one thing you can do is just be more mindful of how you're using AI. Do you really need to use that AI-powered app to find a cat video?
Huh, fair point.
Or could you just search for it, the old-fashioned way?
Yeah.
Those little choices can actually make a difference.
So it's about being intentional,
Right.
like choosing AI for tasks where it really adds value, not just because it's, the latest cool thing.
Exactly. And on a bigger scale, we as consumers can demand more transparency from companies.
Okay, yeah.
They need to be upfront about their water footprint. And we should, support the companies that are actually investing in sustainable practices.
That reminds me of something I read about pre-trained models. Apparently, a lot of companies are wasting resources by training the same AI models over and over when they could just be sharing them. Can you explain how that works and how it saves water?
Yeah, sure. So think of it like this. Training an AI model is kind of like teaching a kid to ride a bike. It takes a lot of time and effort, right?
Right.
But once they learn, they don't forget how to do it. So instead of every parent having to teach their kid from scratch, they could just, share the knowledge. Pre-trained models are kind of like that. They're AI models that have already been trained on tons of data. And companies can use those as a starting point instead of starting from zero every time.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
So this not only saves time and money, but it also, uh, significantly reduces water consumption.
So we talked about being mindful of our own AI use and demanding transparency. But what about the technology itself? Like, are there advancements that could help reduce AI's water footprint?
Yeah, definitely. One of the most promising areas is renewable energy for data centers. More and more companies are switching to solar and wind power, which is great because it means they're less reliant on fossil fuels and, all the water usage that's associated with those.
That's awesome. It just seems like a no-brainer to power these data centers with clean energy.
Yeah, for sure.
What other tech solutions are there?
Another area that's seeing a lot of innovation is cooling technologies.
Okay.
Traditional cooling systems use a lot of water,
Right.
but they're being replaced with more efficient and sustainable alternatives.
Like what? Give me some examples. I'm really interested in this.
Well, one approach is evaporative cooling, which uses evaporation, a natural process to
Mhm.
cool the air. It's a lot more water efficient. And then there's liquid cooling, which uses specialized fluids to absorb and transfer heat away from the servers.
So it's about like moving away from those giant water-guzzling cooling towers and finding smarter ways to deal with the heat from all those powerful machines.
Exactly. And some researchers are even exploring the use of AI itself to optimize data center operations.
Wait, really?
Yeah. So imagine like an AI system that's constantly monitoring and adjusting the cooling systems, the airflow, even the server usage, all in real time to minimize water use.
Whoa, that's like meta, isn't it? Using AI to make AI more sustainable.
I know, right? It's pretty cool.
Are there any companies already doing this?
There are a few. It's still a pretty new area of research, but one company I came across is actually developing algorithms that can predict and mitigate droughts.
No way.
Yeah, they're using AI to analyze weather patterns and soil moisture and all sorts of data to help farmers and water managers make better decisions.
That's incredible. So it sounds like AI could actually be a powerful tool in the fight against climate change and water scarcity.
I think so too. And it's not just about solving existing problems. What if we designed AI from the ground up with water conservation as a core principle?
That's a really interesting thought.
Like, what if every decision that AI makes takes water consumption into account?
Okay.
Like from the types of models that are developed to, where the data centers are located, water conservation would be built into the whole AI ecosystem.
That's a pretty radical idea, but I kind of love it.
Yeah,
It's like shifting the whole paradigm from AI as a water consumer to AI as like a water steward.
exactly. And it's not as far-fetched as it might sound. There are already companies out there developing AI systems that can optimize energy consumption in buildings and cities.
Uh-huh.
So applying those same principles to water management just makes sense. It's the next logical step.
It really makes you wonder what other sustainable solutions are out there. I mean, if AI can learn and adapt, the potential for positive change is huge.
Huge. And the more we understand about the connection between AI and water,
Hmm.
the more we can push for, responsible development and use. It's a conversation we need to be having at every level,
Mm-hmm.
from individual users to, the big tech companies.
For sure. We need to be mindful of our own AI use. We need to demand transparency from companies. We need to support sustainable practices and, advocate for innovative solutions like the ones we've been talking about. It really feels like we're at a turning point. Like we have this amazing technology that's changing everything, but we have to be really careful about, how it impacts the planet, especially when we're talking about something as essential as water.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's like the classic double-edged sword,
Right.
right? Progress is great, but it often comes with unintended consequences.
Mm.
But the good news is that, we're not powerless in this situation. We can all make choices, both individually and as a society, to make sure AI develops in a more sustainable way.
It's not about like demonizing AI or getting rid of it. It's about making sure that all the, amazing things that AI can do don't come at the cost of our planet.
Exactly. And
Yeah,
that's why it's so important to have these kinds of conversations, right? The more people understand about AI and water, the better decisions we can all make.
for sure. So what would you say to someone listening who's thinking, okay, this is all very interesting, but what can I actually do about it? I'm not a tech expert or a CEO or anything.
That's a great question. I think the most important thing to remember is that every little bit helps. Just being mindful of your own AI, supporting companies that are trying to be sustainable, and just generally conserving water in your daily life. Those things all add up.
It's like a ripple effect, right? Like Our individual choices, even small ones, can contribute to a larger movement.
100%. It's about creating a culture of awareness and responsibility around AI. And that starts with conversations like this, talking about these issues and, challenging the status quo.
Yeah, I love that. Challenging the status quo. If someone wants to learn more, where's a good place to start?
Well, there are a lot of great resources online. Organizations focused on sustainable AI, articles, experts you can follow on social media. There's no shortage of information out there if you're willing to look.
Awesome. So to wrap things up, I think the key takeaway from this deep dive is that AI has the potential to be a powerful force for good in the world, but we have to make sure it's developed and used responsibly in a way that, benefits both humanity and the planet.
Couldn't agree more. It's a huge challenge for sure, but it's also a tremendous opportunity to rethink the future of technology and build a more sustainable world for everyone.
Well said. And a future worth fighting for. So, to everyone listening, keep asking questions, stay informed, and let's work together to make sure AI is a force for good, not just progress at any cost.
Well said. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for joining us. And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning in to the deep dive. We'll catch you next time.